Good morning and welcome to Rapid plus TCT 2022. I'm here with Bob Willig, the CEO of SME, and we're going to have a little chat about the event. So welcome, sir.
Hey, thanks, John. Great to be here this morning.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting. I just kind of walked out of the keynote presentations and the show floor just opened. And I would have to say, I think, maybe it's the couple of years of not seeing lots of people. I know we did this last year, but everything feels a little bit different this year, or maybe more like normal.
I think so. I think it's early in the show, but there's a buzz of activity and it's pretty crowded already. So thrilled to see everybody in the community coming back together.
Yeah, it was really good turnout this morning for the keynotes, but then you could kind of feel the itch of the community to get out and come and experience what is to offer here today.
Yes, for sure. People wanted to get back on the show floor and frankly out of the conference room, so great to see them here.
Yeah, I think that there's a balance. I think one thing that's really exciting about this year, kind of a dual threat. It's the exhibit floor, which is what some folks are coming here just to see. And then there's a really strong technical track this year as well.
Indeed there is. There's over 1,000 conference attendees that will be over the next few days in our technical conferences, and a very strong technical track, you're right. So not only here to see the show floor, but to gain some education and share some knowledge as well.
And I think that's one of the things, and maybe where I wanted to go a little bit with our conversation. I think we've collectively been at this for a while.
Indeed.
As SME, much longer across a variety of different technologies. Maybe as new technologies come in, you're there to help the communities who are developing. But I wanted to talk a little bit about where you think we're at, where you've seen, how you've seen things evolve. You've been at this for quite a while.
Yes.
SME, not maybe at SME for so long, but in the industry and connected.
Yes. So a couple ways to answer that. First, for me personally, I joined SME a year and a half ago after 30 plus years in the manufacturing industry, several of them in powdered metal and additive manufacturing. So this is an area of passion for me and knowledge as well. So having the opportunity to join SME was really a dream come true, and helping a nonprofit advance the next generation of manufacturing technology and workforce. But if you look where SME came from, even 30 years ago, even before additive was called additive, we joined forces with the Rapid Prototyping Network, which became the Rapid Prototyping Network at SME back in the late 80s and then in the early 90s. So even before it was called additive, SME got heavily engaged and involved in it. So even before 30 years, we're heavily involved in all those phases of establishing next generation technologies and standards up until where we are today. So it feels very familiar with SME and this space. In fact, the Rapid show has been in existence for 30 years. Boy, there's lots of questions around where it's heading next, right?
Yeah.
Moving more into series production, moving in more to what I would call generally accepted opportunities for application, as opposed to niche or low volume or prototyping, fit, form, and function type opportunities. I think the world is an opportunity out there, and it's only limited by our ability to imagine it.
Yeah, and I think that's some of what we're seeing. America Makes this year is celebrating our 10th year, so
congratulations.
Haven't been at it as long as SME or even this specific show, and I learned that tidbit this morning. I didn't realize that's where the name, I assumed it came from rapid prototyping in some way, but didn't realize there was that, 3-decade plus history in putting the show on. And I think we've seen that in other shows and other events. And what's really exciting to me right now, we get lots of questions, and I'm sure you do as well, and is around that where we're going.
Yes.
So we've got so many different types of organizations and individuals trying to become knowledgeable, or at least inquiring about the technology, that it sometimes gets difficult to, I think, build a show, build an event, even build content around.
Right.
Because there's so many different personas almost that we're trying, or that folks like you are trying to satisfy. Can you talk a little bit about just different ways that you're looking to engage with individuals as they come to the show?
Yeah, indeed, great question, and very relevant for what we're doing here at Rapid plus TCT this year. We firmly believe in the power of collaboration, so bringing together that community of additive manufacturing users and manufacturing constituents, whether it be those folks that work on the factory floor running machines, those that design products, design processes, or even go to that next generation of advanced manufacturing technologies. It's really a voice for everyone. I call it the family, the additive manufacturing family or the community. we even look to this show as being more of an experience. It's not a 3-day experience. It's being live streamed, it's being recorded and made available for others to access it through the year, so it's really rapid 365. It's available really all year. And I could talk a little bit about our partnerships as well, because we value those collaborative partnerships, one of which is with America Makes. You know, congratulations on your 10-year anniversary,
yes,
by the way. I'm happy to say SME was there at the start of America Makes. We were one of the founding companies that helped stand up America Makes, and are thrilled to continue to have such a strong and solid partnership with you. We have a strong partnership developing with AMUG, or the Additive Manufacturing Users Group as well, a group of individuals who are active and very passionate users in this collaborative family environment called additive, and we're proud to work alongside with them. TCT is our partner, part of the Rapid News Network group of companies that helps us establish and put on this show. As well, TCT led the conference development activity this year for us, and I think did an amazing job. And I'm really proud to say that we've just announced this morning a 3-year strategic cooperative agreement with Women in 3D Printing on several key strategic elements as we go forward. Our missions are very similar in terms of advancing technologies and speaking to a broader audience. SME wants to use our voice to help speak to a broader, inclusive audience. We're an association that can help do that and carry forward Women in 3D Printing's mission as well. So I'm thrilled to talk more about that in the future, but we just announced it about an hour ago.
Yeah, so. I think that's you know, being similar organizations in some ways. I think it's one of the most exciting things. You know, we all get to talk about this a fair bit, and you know, get asked those questions. And I think that what's a relatively simple concept that gets, you know, overused as a term, but I think it's something that we truly appreciate as a community, is collaboration. And indeed. I think in this community more so than others, there truly is this family environment where at the end of the day everyone needs to, you know, make a living at this, or we wouldn't be doing it.
Ideally,
but we also need to be working together because we all want to get there more quickly than we're going to be able to do it alone. And I think that's one of the, you know, being one of those partner organizations with you, I mean, we're very appreciative of the engagement across so many different activity areas. I mean, just this week, we're specifically, you know, interacting and talking with the folks from your EWE team, from the tech team, you know, trying to make sure our content is serving the needs of the community. And I think what's important for all of us to understand is there's just far too much to do. And as long as we understand that and appreciate it, we can figure out how to do it together so that we all can be successful at it.
I completely agree, and I think education is key to this element as well. It's not just printing a part, it starts with the function of the part, and it starts with what I would call an application pull, meaning the applications in the future are being designed for only additive. So you pull, the application pulls that technology of additive into the application, as opposed to a technology push. It's a solution looking for a problem, as opposed to an application looking for a solution. And I think that starts with education, and it starts with key collaborative elements of all of us in this industry, because we all want the same thing in the end, which is to grow additive manufacturing and take advantage of what it can do for us.
And I think the one thing I ran as I was walking in here, there's students everywhere already, and I mean, it's fantastic. I almost ran one over walking to the booth. And I think it's important, but it's also really interesting in that some of what our student population, you know, if you think of the folks exiting high school and going into community colleges or tech schools, or even, you know, 4-year academics, and how does that relate to what's going on in incumbent worker training and reskilling and upskilling? Again, I always think of our community as, you know, this circle of organizations, and right now it's really small. At the end of the day, this is fantastic, but we want it to be 10 times bigger.
We need a multiplier effect. We clearly do, and I'll talk just for a minute about the students that you saw, because it's something we're very proud of. So today and tomorrow, we're holding student summits, which we call Bright Minds, for high school students. We'll have roughly 600 of them here with us today and tomorrow. Many of them are associated with our prime school programs, which is our high school vocational education programs, specifically in additive manufacturing track. So 600 students here today. They have what we call a technology playground, which is being supported by several of our partner exhibitor sponsors here, exposing them to additive manufacturing technology, getting them to understand more what it means, how it can help them in their future career paths. but this morning they were given a guided tour of the show before it opened. So we wanted to get them some key time with the exhibitor sponsors here on the factory floor, on the show floor, to really excite them and enthuse them and let them see what it's all about. So we're doing that today, and we're doing it again tomorrow. In addition to that, we have several university students, a significant number of university students coming today, taking part in that program as well, but we also have several universities here and several companies here. And we have a small but a growing opportunity to do a career fair as part of that Bright Minds activity. So that's happening in the Grand Ballroom here at the Huntington Place.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think it's one of the areas that's really easy to get excited about.
Indeed.
But I also see, that when we work a lot with small and medium-sized manufacturers, same as you, and
yes.
probably a large population of the clients that you serve day in and day out, and what you do at the core of SME. And I think that's the other really interesting situation we're in, or whatever you want to call it. It's our reality today.
Indeed. Yes.
And one thing that I noticed a couple of years ago, and I can see where I'm physically sitting, some organizations that I know that are very traditional manufacturers that are now adopting additive manufacturing. And I think something, we're both from traditional manufacturing backgrounds.
Yes, we are.
And what's really exciting for me is that how we start to then merge the additive community with the folks who are very familiar with manufacturing, and what do we see come out of that? Can you talk to ways that you're trying to get your maybe conventional side of SME engaged in Rapid and familiar and aware of the
Sure. I mean, let me start by using as an example. So AMUG, or the Additive Manufacturing Users Group, had their activity, their event a few weeks ago here in Chicago, and we were honored to be asked to be a part of that. And what we did was we created several what we called manufacturing loops, so traditional manufacturing education videos that were used to support education of the 2,000 individuals who came to the AMUG show. So smart manufacturing, lean, Kanban, pull technology, warehousing on the plant floor, all the way up to machining. There was one on forging and assembly. And I walked by and I saw just hundreds of people engaged in that activity, because what we have is a group that are quite enthused about additive, but might not know as much about some of the traditional manufacturing that you and I grew up with.
Absolutely.
And so that's just one example, but we're looking at all sorts of ways to expand what SME can do in this area, because we have to cross those paths between what I would call more traditional, not commodity, but standardized processes and more traditional metal forming activities, still very valuable, but with what we're seeing today in additive, and why not cross them?
Yep, and I think that's it's one of the big opportunities for our community, because I think that's where we have the potential to see this kind of exponential rise of adoption. That's what our mission at America Makes, is increasing the adoption of additive manufacturing. We're all trying to do that. I think we've made tremendous progress as a community.
Yes,
and
indeed.
really have seen significant uptick. I think what I feel we see today is there's technology that is now mature to the point it can be introduced into manufacturing settings.
Yes.
But we've got to figure out how to get that more conventional or traditional manufacturer engaged. So I think one thing that's interesting, and maybe we lose sight of at the Institute a little bit and are trying to do better at this, is this show is fantastic, our events are fantastic, these individual instances are great, but you only can touch so many. Mm-hmm. And I think it goes a little bit to your idea of Rapid 365, is we need to be able to reach that next tier of manufacturer, or that person that didn't get to come to this show. Yes. And how do we do that? How do we engage? And could you talk maybe a little bit about what you see the future of Rapid or Rapid 365 turning into?
I can. So a couple of things. One of the things, if you look around the show, or if you've been reading any of our publications or articles or magazines, is we use the words voices amplified, and AM or capitalized, not coincidentally, to stand for additive manufacturing. And we use that as a moniker to use to both use it as a vehicle or a platform for additive manufacturing experts to be recognized and speak to the community from a voices amplified approach. But understand, we distribute that along with our magazines, which go out at 90,000 a month. So not every month, but almost every month, we'll have a voices amplified supplement in there that talks specifically about additive. to what I would call more traditional readers of our manufacturing engineering magazine, which is more cutting, machining, welding, and grinding. Now they're getting exposure to Voices Amplified and the understanding around the technology that we do in those areas. The other area is the recognition of just how many volunteers help us come together in technical communities, event advisors, people that give enormous amounts of time. Over 100 just last night we were able to honor and say thank you to. As part of that, we have a publication here available at the show called Humans of Additive Manufacturing, and it's a recognition of those folks and an honor to say, look what you're able to do and look what you're able to do to help us. So I see people picking that up saying, how do I get involved in this? How do I get more engaged with this as well? So trying to use the reach of SMA and our 90-year history to reach out to our constituents, our members, and frankly, anybody associated with SMA.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I think that, again, it goes back to this community and collaboration approach that I think you guys do very well.
Thank
and you see it by the folks that you get to help support. I know we're very happy to engage and be part of technical reviews and different things where we can be helpful or wherever it might be. But you see it, I was looking through that book last night, kind of like a yearbook, at dinner.
We saw a lot of familiar faces.
Oh, absolutely. I think another interesting thing, and maybe we can kind of wrap up on this next topic, is where additive fits into the other advanced manufacturing technologies that are out there. I think we see that there are a number of different enabling technologies that additive works very nicely with, and vice versa.
Yes.
I know you have an event coming up in relatively soon in Pittsburgh, Smart Manufacturing Experience. I think we'll be there. I think it's exciting to kind of see how it all fits together. And for us as an additive organization, we'll approach that show quite differently than what we do here, because it kind of goes back to our last discussion where I would imagine a decent portion of the population there isn't familiar with additive or isn't as familiar versus here where it's kind of taken for granted. So can you talk a little bit how maybe SME thinks about it from a portfolio perspective of looking at it? I mean, you guys are very engaged in a variety of new technologies, as well as serving the community in what we talked about, this more traditional approach, or more traditional manufacturing.
Yeah, thank you. A couple of things. So SMX will be happening in early June in Pittsburgh, and it brings together large companies to speak to small and medium-sized manufacturers about how to get smart, how to get digitalized across their factory floor, enabling Industry 4.0, even at a simple level to start with, because the small and medium-sized guys oftentimes don't know how to start. Where do they start, right? So I'm thrilled to say Manufacturing USA will be well supported there. 7 of the manufacturing institutes will be there. We've never had anything quite like this before, and it's an opportunity across those 7 different MIs to give exposure to the people who come to SMX. So great opportunity to do that. Now back to additive just for a minute. So I ran a powdered metal organization for several years, and one of the things that we talked about was design for PM, design for powdered metal. Think of that before additive. And the idea there was finding design applications that took advantage of what powdered metal could do, minimizing post-processing and secondary operations. And we need to think about additive in much the same way, in the way that we design it, so we don't have to rely on secondary post-processing to make a good part. Now that being said, there's no reason why additive parts can't be combined with more traditional manufacturing parts as well in the same factories, right? It doesn't have to be separate. So the idea there is educating those traditional manufacturers on the benefits of additive, but also educating the upfront design activities in order to incorporate it. And we're doing an awful lot of that in our training and education and development. We have multiple career tracks in Tooling USME around additive manufacturing. I think in the pandemic, we delivered additive manufacturing training online to over 40,000 people, just in over the 18 months in the pandemic. So, I mean, there's an awful lot happening here.
Yeah, we could talk for an hour on everything.
Which we have before
going on. Yeah, I think it's just so exciting. I think it's great to be back here in person. I mean, the whole show, especially from this perspective, is really interesting.
It's very exciting.
It feels different this year. So very excited to have you there. Excited to be part of the celebration tonight, so appreciate
looking forward to that. Please, for anybody who happens to be coming down to the show at 5 o'clock today, we'll have an industry celebration. We hope to fill the atrium here at Huntington Place, and our key industry sponsors, including America Makes, TCT, AMUG and Women in 3D Printing will all be there, and you get an opportunity to see them. Several of our board members will be there for SME, and I know America Makes will be there in spades. So
absolutely.
Thank you very much for your support there.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having us.
It's great to have talked to you today.
Yeah,
so again, thank you, John.
Thanks.
All the best.
Yeah.